Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Hokule'a class. Now, this is again from the Advanced Starship Design Bureau's page. Some of the concept ships that they had kind of come up with. Um, you know, Kind of going through this, and we're going to hit a lot of fan made ships as well. So, just continuing some of the things that people have come up with on their own terms, different variations of ships, and so on and so forth. Some things I agree, some things I don't agree. We're all different. Uh, but getting into this, because we're going to get through all these here first. So this is a envisioned ship being at about 542 meters long. Hukula is designed by Dan. I don't know who Dan is here, or even Mark, as they've come up with their own ideas. The Hukula is an early 24th century starship, an alternative design to the Excelsior class. So, if we think about it in different ways as they kind of come up with different design sketches here, uh, just trying to show their own design framework. I think this looks pretty nice. Really, I think it would have been a little bit nicer in my regard to have stayed in this design frame, but that's not the frame that they decided to go with. Um, Flushing this out, giving it all the different decks, we see that the nacelles get put downward later on, and then that becomes their design flow as they kind of move on from here. Um, and I think we start seeing it here. Okay, so with their design flow kind of changing a little bit here, and the nacelles being put downward, that's their design. That's you know it changes it from what the Excelsior looks like. As other things have been kind of changed in the whole design. Um, let's see. They're thinking it should be a crew of 305 with 15 decks. So I'll have to make sure I note that and change that here. Um, a smaller, it's kind of interesting because they want this as a heavy cruiser. So really, what I did is I just took the Excelsior at its latest version and said, "Hey, how do we flip this around and just say, did it really perform as well as what they were hoping? Maybe you get a little bit more out of it, but is it really worth redesigning and rebuilding the ships compared to just refurbishing the old ones?" Um, I really can't answer that. I just don't have an answer for that because there again, we see the Excelsior used quite a bit, and mainly because and the sad part really kind of comes down to this happens quite often with Star Trek as they're knocking out new episodes every 2 weeks. Um, so the design crunch is really there, and it really limits as to what they can do. It's hard to put models together in such a tight framework of an expected time frame. Um, you get a lot of hours put in as to how to come up with these models as they go through all their design sketches as they're going through the warp core, possibly even two warp cores here as they're working it all through. Now, this is all we get out of our design. Taking it from here and looking at it, um, and I'll leave this one up here for a little bit as I kind of talk through my thought on this. Now, I don't know what their thought was, so I could be way off from what they were originally thinking. And please take that with a grain of salt of what my thoughts are. Now, if we're going to have a smaller crew, so they do want a heavy cruiser with a smaller crew, more of an attack ship or whatever, um, maybe with the flaring of issues with the Romulans, but the Romulans have been, when we get to the next generation, we have not seen the Romulans out for a while. So maybe this is in response to a possible threat from the Romulans as we begin like the next generation. Hey, let's look at the Excelsior design, can we change it up a little bit and make it a little less crew dependent for anything possible in the future and go from there? Now, that is a design thought. Um, is that what they're going with or not? I don't know, because it's, I'm looking at this as an outsider, not knowing their design premises on this. Outside of, it is listed as originally as a medium or as a heavy cruiser, but now this one is showing a medium cruiser. So maybe along their lines they had kind of changed it. So I'll have to change my stats a little bit to kind of go along with this. And in that regards, then it does make a little bit more sense. Hey, let's strip it down a little bit. What don't we need for the extra stuff here so we can get more ships out there to patrol the extra space that's being brought into the Federation at the time? That makes a little bit more sense. Having these big exploratory ships makes sense when you're out for long journeys. We have plenty of crew on board. We're not always tripping over the same 15, 20 people for long periods of time. In a role playing game sense or whatever, yeah, you can do it. In a long, drawn out sense, after a while, we might want to see a couple extra people. Uh, Maybe change up shifts or something like that. It depends on how well people gel together. And when you're on a ship and you really can't break free to go do the things you want to do. In the next generation, we see the holodecks, which I think becomes a great sense of, look at everyone's hobbies today. You're going to have people that want to go hunting and fishing, and other people that want to watch NASCAR and whatever, other people that just want to go for walks along a beach or whatever else have you. Um, if you're on board a ship, you're going to get that kind of claustrophobic feeling, and you just want to be able to see something else. At least with the holodeck, it gives us that availability. Um, so with a smaller ship, a smaller crude ship, having a holodeck available gives us a little break from the looking at the same four walls every day. We can see, a sunrise on a different planet, distant planet, and we can just kind of get back to our normal shift. Having a day off, just being able to unwind, relax, and do our own fun things. So, all right. With that, let's get our stats changed real quick, and then let's get into doing our D6 stats here. All right. So let's look at the Hokule'a medium cruiser. All right. So, oops. God blast it. I keep forgetting to do this. Um, I forgot to change out the Excelsior, which is where I grabbed the original stats from. Um, because I figured if I'm making it based off of that, I will probably want it to be based off of that. All right. So this is going to be a lighter weight medium cruiser compared to what the Excelsior is. Okay. Um, so this is roughly about the same length. It is shorter. Actually, I think I have it at about the same width as the Excelsior, but it is a smaller ship by about 20 some meters. The Excelsior was, I believe, 19 decks, and we're down to 15. The ship mass, the Excelsior was like 2,350,000 metric tons. I've got this down to 2,200,000 metric tons. So I've kind of made it a little bit smaller here. Kept it at the size 7 ship. I think we're still within that bounds. Um, Capital skill piloting for piloting this. And autopilot, still from the Excelsior, is a 3D plus 1. Borrowing very heavily on all the Excelsior stuff here. I've made changes here and there. I didn't change the cargo capacity, and that's going to be 200,000 metric tons. Now, our crew is 305, skeleton crew of 35 with a plus 10. Now, this has all been changed. It was like 7 something and 75 for our skeleton crew. Our passengers, I did not change that. I don't know if I have the housing correctly for that or not. And if I don't, I apologize because I wasn't thinking of passenger capacity. I was thinking about an extra 100 people on board ship. So I'm roughly about there. Maybe I'm a little off. Just kind of bear with me on that one. All right, consumables for 3 years. Our warp speed. Now I did up from the Excelsior, which was a 5. Our standard warp is going to be a 6. Our max warp is a 9, same as the Excelsior, but our max rated is a 9.8 instead of a 9.2 for 6 hours. Our nav computer is, we are definitely going to have a nav computer, and our maneuverability is staying at a 1D. Now, the Excelsior also had a 9D for a space, or a 9 for space speed, so I left that. Our hull and shields is the same at 4D plus 1 for a hull and 2D plus 2 for our shields. Like I said, borrowing heavily on everything from the Excelsior. The same sensor suite is on board, so we have a 40 or 4 kilometer passive scanning at a 1D plus 1, a active scan out to 12 kilometers at a 2D, an active search out to 15 kilometers at a 3D, and a focus out to 500 meters at a 3D plus 2. Now, the weapons and all that I have kept the same. So we do have still 10 Type 9 phaser arrays at a fire control of 1D plus 2 and damage of 3D plus 2 with a fire rate of 1. We also have 3 Type 9 phaser arrays with a fire control of 1D plus 1, fire rate of 2, and damage is 3D plus 2. Now we also have 2 other Type 9 phaser arrays. This is a fire control of 1D plus 1, fire rate of 3, damage is 3D plus 2. So a nice attack ship with a smaller crew. We have 4 photon torpedo launchers, 2 forward, 2 aft. Fire control is 1D plus 1, spread of 5, and damage is 4D. Now we have 2 Delta class tractor beams, 1 forward, 1 aft. Strength is 4D plus 1. And as usual, 2 class alpha tractor beam, or 1 class alpha tractor beam. My mind is just not working on all cylinders today. All right. Starfighter scale for our shuttle bay, and that is a strength of 3D. Now, our miscellaneous here, our crew quarters, I put the basic for 300, expanded for 50, so that gets us 350, a luxury of 40, so that's 390, and unusual for 18, that's 300 and or 408. Now, I am technically about 20 or roughly about 50 people shy. So let's bump up our basic here to being 42, 342. I think that should work out about right. Um, I think that should cover everyone that we should have here. We are 15 decks, escape pods. We have 160 of them for 4 personnel each. Now, in the Advanced Starship Design Bureau, they said it was supposed to be commissioned in 2310. So we have that on here. Our transporters are still 4 transporters for 6-person capacity. We have 4 emergency transporters for 22-person capacity. We have 3 cargo transporters for 400 kilograms. And looking at our complement for shuttlecraft, we can hold up to 10 shuttlecraft, 5 shuttle pods, and 100 probes. Now, some of the bigger things I think we're going to be lacking is maybe our science divisions aren't going to be as big and numerous. We'll still be able to do some of the science, but maybe not to the same degree as what the Excelsior could do. When you kind of strip some of that down, I think the first things that are really going to go on a ship like this are going to be your medical and sciences and all that stuff. You're going to want to keep all your military personnel, but a lot of that other stuff is going to be kind of stripped away some. And that would really account for why we have a smaller crew on board. Being able to be a rapid response ship, we could still do a lot of the scientific stuff, maybe engineering stripped a little bit, maybe a few less military personnel if we need them. But we're going to keep what we need to run the ship, as well as a little extra, not as a grand scale as what we have on the Excelsior. More like what we have on, the old um, Constitution class. So keeping it there. With that being said, thank you for stopping by. Thanks for visiting. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.